Is MuseScore 4 the Sibelius killer? Has it finally caught up with Avid? I'll leave that up to you to decide. This will at least be my opinion as I've worked through MuseScore 4. I regularly use Sibelius. I used it all the way through my education, my degree. I've used it professionally. And so moving back and actually working with MuseScore 4 and writing a score in it, I was actually quite surprised at the results. Now, firstly, what is MuseScore 4? It is a notation software. It's not a digital audio workspace. It's a place where you'll write up a score to give to a performer to perform it, essentially. Or you can write up a score and then export it into a DAW to add samples, etc., etc. Now, they did a massive overhaul with this. It looks completely different, and I remember working with the old ones before I actually purchased Sibelius, and I immediately went nope, went over to Avid and gave my precious money over to them. But this seriously does challenge it. I absolutely love it. As I said, I've done it, well, I've not finished it, but I've started making a score in it. But before we get into that, this is 100% free, no limits. It is easy to use, open source, and with this they released a playback engine as well, which I actually really like. It's better than, of course, general MIDI, and I would go as far as to say it's better than Sibelius sounds, and for a fraction of the size, and it has this really easy UI. I'll leave links in the description for everything. And when you download it, there's this Music Hub as well. If you look here at the top, there's this little icon you get. And these guys are also the one who's got Audacity. Audacity's there. You've got StaffPad, ToneBridge. This, of course, is specifically MuseScore. But there's also a Sounds tab, an Effects tab, Inspiration tab. This is really nice. And this is where you go to download these playback engines. Strings, brass, choir. If you scroll across, you can see there's percussion, keys, woodwind, a harp. They're all surprisingly nice, and they actually describe them as, well, Muse sounds profoundly present Muse strings, an incredible free collection of sectional and solo strings featuring a lush symphonic string section and detailed and intimate string quartet. Now, disclaimer, this is not better than, I would even go as far to say, Logic's own samples within it. Of course, depending on how much you go into it and work it. Of course, if you're just going to stick stuff in and expect the strings to sound amazing in Logic, you're not going to get a great sound. This, you will get a great sound by just sticking notes in and maybe adding some dynamic markings and stuff. So don't get me wrong when I say this is good, but it's not as good as Spitfire Audio Solo Strings, Labs, Instruments, those free stuff you can get there, or even your own DAW samples. This is specifically for notation. Now, I will be doing a video where I'll be comparing the same track, but using this playback, using my own professional samples, using free samples, Sibelius, Note Performer, so a wide selection of playback so you yourself can judge which sounds better. But in this video, we're just trying to review MuseScore 4. I'll talk about some of my qualms, some things I really like. So one thing I do like is the playback. It sounds good and it's easy on the ears. Now, this is what happens when you click on it and open it up. This is what you come to. I love how simple it is, especially if you're starting out composing and you're going into Sibelius. It can be really overwhelming. There's a lot going on the screen. This is extremely simple. Simply just click New Score. You have a variety of templates, anything from just general stuff you can add yourself, choosing instruments. I love the fact that, of course, you've got popular stuff there. Orchestral, you've got your classic orchestra, symphony orchestra, really nice, just simple collections, easy to click on and do. And even then, for example, let's go classic orchestra. I press next. I love this UI. I actually prefer it to Sibelius's because it's just so simple, so easy to do. C major, pick your major or minor, pick your time signature, tempo, bars. Absolutely gorgeous. Name, subtitle, so simple for those starting out, and it's free. That in itself is a huge highlight. So let's just click on the demo I've been working on from 2 weeks ago. You can, of course, change how you do your layout. I like the continuous one. It's right down here in the bottom. You can do page view, continuous view horizontal, or continuous view vertical. As I said, I'm very particular to the continuous view horizontal. I guess it's very similar to a DAW in that sense. And you have the lovely features down here as well to zoom in and zoom out on your score. Concert pitch is right down there at the bottom as well, which is really nice to have there at your fingertips with everything else, because you really do want it at a click of a button, especially if you're printing it out. I love how at the top everything, your general stuff is there. You can go to settings and add or remove what you want and customize this bar 100%. The notes at the top are hotkeyable as well. So if I click there and go 5, it will break it down. If I want to go 3 or even go 2, so you'll find all the notes are hotkeyable. Sadly, that's doing it with rests, but if I want to do it with a single note, copy and paste that there. Click 4 to change it. So those of you who are used to hotkeys in Sibelius will happily be able to transition that into your workflow in MuseScore 4. And up here as well, you've got the part, so you don't have to go into submenus to get this. You can just click there, open selected, and we can open just the part for the flute, which is really easy to do. You do have the mixer as well, which I generally don't touch because you're going to want to work with your dynamics instead. This is nice to have, I guess, if you want to mute stuff or solo stuff. Say you just wanted to listen to the piano, you can solo that. Nice little feature. It's cute. One thing I will note, and I had problems with initially because I was so used to Sibelius, is the fact MIDI keyboards. Of course, I have a keyboard right in front of me, and say I want to click on a bar, and start playing stuff in. You'll note you'll hear the sounds. They sound absolutely awful. That's because it's not actually the playback. It's just on the spot, I think MIDI, but it's not putting any notes in. If I did that on Sibelius, it'd start writing stuff, which I guess this has pros and cons. Maybe you'll like this, maybe you don't, but you have to click this button up here, which is the editor. And once you click that, then you can actually play your notes in, and that works. Although I did have a couple little problems when I was trying to get my keyboard to work. And not only that, the buffer size I absolutely hate. So this is when you actually go into the general settings. All you do is click MuseScore at the top and go to preferences. Now if we go to I/O, the buffer size I cannot make smaller than 1024. Now normally in a DAW you can get it down to 123 depending on what interface you're running, but no matter what, I cannot make that any shorter, which I actually really don't like. I'd like to actually be able to, I've got a powerful computer, I can go smaller. And with the MIDI input, I can only select one thing. I can't select multiple. Maybe I want, of course, my complete control S88 to work on it, but maybe I want other bits to work as well. Maybe I want my interface as well and other MIDI devices, but I can only connect one, which is a bit annoying in all honesty. So there's my little qualm there, but I did get it to work, and you do have a nice little edit button there at the top. Of course, looking at the left, you have this really nice collection of all your articulations, dynamics, accidents, pitches, tempo stuff you can drag into here to quickly edit it. Really, really, really nice. Another thing I love is the fact the instruments is actually here on the panel, and you can go to settings and change abbreviations, replace name, things like that. Just look at that one, so you can get rid of them all and hide some of them as well. You can drop them down to add different staves. Really nice, interactive, very simple. Just looking at it, you can tell this is simple, and you can go as complex as you want or as simple as you want. Another thing I really, really, really like, if you press the add button, so if you want to add extra instruments, you can search common ones. You've got the whole list there. But if we go over here, you can select maybe the flute and click on make soloist. I really like that. In Sibelius, you actually have to look for solo and add them. This one, just click on it, make solo, and there's your solo flutist. I'm going to unsolo that for now. Now, moving on to kind of some of the downsides. Some I really don't like, and it didn't work for me, is double dynamics. So for example, on the piano, if I wanted to play loudly one hand and quietly in the other, when I scored that, it didn't translate. It just picked the loud one and everything was played loudly. So I don't know what the problem was there, if it's just me or the glitch. Copying and pasting as well is not as fine-tuned as Sibelius, for example. If I just wanted to copy and paste this little bit here, these 4 notes, I'll do that, Command C. And in Sibelius, if I click the whole bar and press Command V, it will copy and paste it to the entire bar. So there's little things like that I found in MuseScore 4 that aren't quite as fine-tuned as Sibelius, that just kind of make the workflow go a little bit quicker. For some reason, I couldn't find Flutter Tongue. I use Flutter Tongue a lot in the flute. There's just some articulations I just couldn't quite find the right thing for. Again, that could just be me, but it wasn't as simple as, well, if I go here and click in Flutter Tongue. Now watch, this might actually crash. This is another downside. So Flutter, yeah, it's not coming up with anything on that articulation. So is it there? I don't know. I guess it's an extended technique, but I would still expect something as simple, in all honesty, as Flutter Tongue to be there. And I have found in the past that when I've actually gone to search things, the whole thing crashes. It's a bit glitchy. I don't know if that's just because it's the initial release. Remember, this is free of charge. So again, it could just be simply that fact. And overall, I do find it to be a little bit on the simpler side. Before we move on, let's do a quick audio demo so you can quickly listen to how this actually sounds. Let's just press play and I'll let you be the ultimate judge. And that's the playback. I really like it. The legatos and the flute sounded amazing. You've got those nice sharp staccatos. The playback, 100% passable, and you could get away with it. What's nice about this software as well is you can export it. So if we actually go, and I've showed this in another video, but I'm going to show a very basic version of that. If you go to File at the top, I know you probably can't see this at the moment, and just go to Export, very easy to do. You can go here and go export it as a PDF. You can export it as a MIDI file, which I generally do if I'm putting it into a DAW. But for example, if you're at university, if you're at college and you can't afford Sibelius, or if you want to use a score at home, want to save a bit of money, you can use MuseScore 4, but export it into Sibelius when you are at school. So you can go down here, go to the MusicXML, export that. Generally, I would go for the uncompressed version. Don't compress it down. Export that and then right click that when you're on the computer at school and open it with Sibelius, and it will open it up there and then as it is on the score. So you can continue working on this in Sibelius when you're at school and then use it for MuseScore when you're at home. Again, you'll have to export the MusicXML from Sibelius so you can open it once again in MuseScore 4. It's really nice to be able to go backwards and forwards between different softwares. It works nicely there. You might have a couple little glitches in that case, like little bits maybe not quite right, but generally I found it works really well cross-platform. Now, overall, as I was composing this piece, what did I find? What's kind of my final verdict, if I could sum it all up? This, in all honesty, is the unbranded version of Sibelius. You know, when you go to the store, instead of going for Kellogg's cereal, you buy the Walmart, Tesco as the version of it. It's the unbranded version. So it's not as sweet or as fine-tuned as Sibelius and Avid. Honestly, that is a solid package. And especially if you're wanting to do this as a career, I would highly recommend it because there's so much more you can do. It takes this to the next level. This is great for beginners. I would even go to say this is great for intermediate if you're doing this at university. But if you're going to take it further than that, I would 100% invest in Sibelius. But this is a great unbranded version. It can be a bit glitchy. That comes with the territory of free software. I did find it would crash now and then. I don't know if that was because it was the initial release. I know they've done an update since then, and I've noticed I think they've fixed a lot of those issues, so it does run a little bit smoother. But It does save your work. It does do autosave, so even when it did crash, I didn't lose everything. I did turn autosave on so that I could easily get back into it and maybe only lost a bar or two of music. So you have that to your advantage. The main problem I guess you'll have working with MuseScore is just knowing where everything is. I think that was the main problem I actually had moving into it, because I'm so used to Sibelius and how it works. There was a couple little things like having to click this button up here in order to make my piano work. That caused me a little problems, but other than that, I actually really liked it. They've done an absolutely amazing job. The playback is outstanding for what it is, especially for something free, so I can't complain, but I highly rate this and highly recommend it. I can't fault it. I'm sat here trying to fault it, but I can't. It's great. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.